card, phone, and zipper. So the first thing I really want to talk about is that for this project we do leave the edges all raw. So we are using a self-healing textile, which is leather, cork, faux leather, vinyl, anything that's not going to fray over time. So don't try and make this with cotton, it will not work. I highly, highly recommend that you get a quilting ruler with a straight edge and a rotary cutter so that you can get nice, clean lines. If you're going to try and cut all the edges with scissors, it might be jagged, and just for the overall end look, it's going to really make a difference if you've got nice, clean lines. So for the first step, I tell you not to go ahead and cut out your flat pieces yet and to cut out 2 rectangle pieces, because we want to apply glue to this and fuse them wrong sides together to make it one piece with essentially 2 right sides, and then cut out our flap piece, because then we can use a rotary cutter and round those edges and we'll have some clean lines for the whole flap to start. Since I'm using leather, I will be using a leather adhesive to adhere these 2 pieces together. But if you're using faux leather or cork or anything, fabric tack works just as well. I like to use a credit card to just kind of spread it all even to get all the edges included. And that's what I'm gonna do right now. I just placed a heavy book on our flap to give it a chance to dry, and I'm going to go ahead and cut out the rest of our pieces. Just want to show you this back zipper pocket for option A or a template for option B. So you're going to cut out that zipper box and cut out the exterior zipper pocket for option A, or you're going to use this as a template and lay it on the back of the 2 exterior main pieces and use that to trace out the window and cut that out before moving forward. When you go to cut out the rest of your pieces, I want to point out this dashed line along the top of your main body piece. You will need that for the fabric liner in option A. After you're done with that, then you're going to go ahead and fold at that dotted line and cut out the rest of the main body pieces. If you're doing option B, you don't even need this extra length. Go ahead and just cut it at the dashed line to cut out all your pieces. Now, whether you're doing option A or option B, the flap and the card slot panel is constructed the same way. So I'm going to show you that in the leather version, and then we'll skip to back to the floral fabric to do the clear pocket window at the end. So now I'm going to take my pattern piece and clip it to the front, trace it, mark my lock placement, and go ahead and cut that out. Now we're just going to take it to our machine and sew an 1/8 inch from the edge all the way around the 3 sides. Leave this part unsewn, and then we'll go ahead and install our lock. Real quick, I just want to point out that you don't need these press punches and a hand press to do a flip block install. I'm just a firm believer that if you have the tools to make a job easier, by all means use them. Otherwise, good old-fashioned sharp scissors work just as well to cut out that flip block. As you can see, the edge is really nice looking as is. You don't have to edge paint it if you don't want to. But if you do choose to edge paint it, you want to go ahead and apply that first layer now to give it a chance to dry, because you'll find you'll need at least 1 to 3 coats depending on the coverage you're looking for. So let's do that now. Now we're going to make the front card slot panel. So I did grab a main body in leather, some ribbon, and we're going to take the pattern piece and clip it directly on top so I can use that as a template to cut out these straight lines and to cut the little dashes for my flip block. I would be punching a hole here for the spring snap if I'm doing that route. I do have a small leather punch here. I'm going to add some circle punches to the end of each line, strictly for aesthetic purposes. It's not mandatory though. We're about to assemble our card slots. Real important, I did cut the slits for my flip block. Flipping it over, this is where the double-sided 1/4 inch tape comes in real handy. We're going to leave the backings on all of them. I've applied a layer just below each slit, and then a 1/2 inch from this bottom edge, and then a 1/2 inch above this top slit. I'm going to peel off that first row and take my ribbon going up this way. I'm going to go ahead and finger press it right into that tape. Then I'm going to flip it over and take it to my machine here and just sew a row of stitching just below it. I'm not going to back stitch on either end. At the end, I will pull all my threads to the back, tie them off and singe them. So we got our first row here. We're gonna flip this back over, and then we're gonna go ahead and push this down and give it a good finger press. Peel off this backing and lay it flat down into that. Press it well. Then we're gonna take off this piece of tape, pull this up, finger press that well, push that down to that. Repeat that process from the front. Sewing just below this cut line. Out. And now we're going to go ahead and measure up a 1/2 inch from that folded edge. Lay a piece of our double-sided sticky tape down. Peel it off. Finger press that crease really well. Stick it into the tape. Pull off that last slot adhesive. And we're gonna go back up. Press it into that. So that last line. Pull it out. And then one more time, measure a 1/2 inch from that folded edge. Apply your adhesive. Finger press. Push, push, push. And then the last piece we get peeled off. Pull it straight. Finger press and push that into there. We're not doing any more sewing. We have a little extra ribbon that we are going to go ahead and cut off. Now we'll pull our threads to the back and knot them off. Right, this is why we punched our hole first, because I don't want to now stick a sharp object and risk cutting my ribbon. So I've already threaded that through. I'm going to take the washer and push it on both sides. And then I'm going to push the prongs off to the side. Before moving on, I verified my card slots look like this, that they're not falling through, that I did it right. And then I'm going to take one of the back mains, apply a lot of glue, and just like the flap, we're going to glue these two pieces wrong sides together as one. After it's all glued and dried, take your notch template, trace it, and cut them out as one. All right, I just took it to my machine and sewed a top stitch along the curve 1/8 inch away. If you're gonna paint, add a layer right now. Set that aside, and we're gonna go ahead and move on to the zipper pocket for option A. I've already added tape to the back of this. I will remove the one around the zipper box and center it on my zipper. Sew around the box, and then take the whole thing together and center it along the bottom edge so it's equal on both sides with a larger gap on top, and finish it off by sewing around the entire perimeter. Last part for the option A is I've added a piece of tape to the wrong side, the underside of the flap, and I'm going to butt it up against the edge of the flap right here. And then I'm going to take it to my machine and sew one row across, go 1/4 inch away, and sew a second row right now. All right, so now we're going to add the fabric liner. I've already trimmed off a smidge from each edge, not even much, like literally less than 1/8 of an inch, because we don't want the frays popping out on that. And I've sprayed it with some spray adhesive to the wrong side. Now I'm going to go ahead and lay it down, lining up those top edges, and press in place. Right now I feel a little resistance because there's a zipper, a giant zipper in the back, but so you should see just a smidge of a gap along all the corners. And then we're going to take it to the machine and fold our flap out of the way and sew across here 1/8 inch away from the edge. All right, so I just clipped the card slots to the completed exterior main panel, lining up the 3 edges. If you see that there's any areas that could really use some trimming before you sew it, do that now. Otherwise, we're gonna take it to our machine and sew an 1/8 inch all the way around the edge. All right, I've just added a strip of double-sided tape down the center of my leather strap, and I've folded the edges towards the center and pressed them. I've taken my fabric two-tone part to the ironing board, and I've also pressed it to the center. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and lay the fabric on top of the leather and either use another strip of tape or clip, and we're gonna sew from the fabric side up because it is a smidge narrower than the leather, and we're gonna go an 1/8 inch from the edge. Step. So you have these little side anchors. You should have a left and a right. And all you're gonna do is you're just gonna slide them in place and then tighten up the screws in the back. And then just gonna add your crossbody strap, fill it up, and it's all done. And here's option B. I've made this one out of a faux leather and used the snap closure option. So you open up, you got your 3 card slots in the main compartment for your phone, but the best part about that is all you have to do is flip it over and you got your clear window, so you can respond to that text and not even have to take that phone out. As you'll see, the pattern also calls for another closure option, a snap. So I'm going to show you real quick how to do that on the second version that we're making. Okay, so I have just attached my flap to one of the back window cutout pieces. I did 2 rows of stitching really close to the edge and then one above it. And I lined up the flap with the top edge of the window opening. You'll see that the spring snap is face up. So now I'm going to flip the whole thing over. I've applied some double-sided tape here, and I'll remove those and then sandwich my clear vinyl right on top and place the next piece on top of that. All right, so the double-sided tape is your best friend for this part, and take your time getting the front and the back lined up because it can be quite frustrating, but using the tape really helps everything stay in place. So now I'm going to go ahead and fold my flap out of the way and then sew this top edge together, and then sew just inside these perimeter to secure the clear window. Okay, so you'll notice that I sandwiched the D-rings in between both sides, so it's not raw anywhere but inside this 1-inch panel. And all I did was just thread them through and get the D-rings as close to the edge as possible. Next, I'm going to take my completed card panel and line up all the edges and clip in place and then sew it. All right, so this is how it looks sewn together. I did go ahead and take some really sharp scissors and even up the rounded corners and any edges that weren't quite lining up. As you can see, I did add some edge paint to the inner part of this rounded edge and the flap. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this edge as well. But another option would be you could either leave it white if that doesn't bother you, or you could color it with some black Sharpie. The very least, if you can take some clear drying glue and apply it to that raw edge, that will help prevent that little fabric backing from kind of fraying over time. Add your crossbody strap. Right, so I just quickly put a layer of black paint on, got rid of all the white, and I'm very happy with it. So we're done.